right, there's only one way to do this, right? And that's to actually just start. Hey, welcome to Daily-Astrocat.com. Today we're doing a chart spotlight. The chart spotlight is one that we did for June 12th. And June 12th, our chart spotlight was one Reg Presley. Now, Reg Presley was actually born Reginald Maurice Ball, and he was born in Somerset, England. Not Somerset, Andover. Andover, England. They're posing in caves in Somerset. That's what's confusing me. Now, if you need to know, all right, Reg Presley is this guy right here. Let's show you. And who are the Troggs? The Troggs are the troglodytes. They're the Troggs, right? What did they do? What do you know them for? Well, some of you out there already do know it. But let's just, here, watch. This is what you know the Troggs for. Maybe. No, not at all. All right, so this is what you know the Troggs from. Okay, that was fail, but you know them for Wild Thing. You make my heart sing. You know that stuff, right? Bow, 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 bow. Yeah, Wild Thing, that proto-punk thing. Done in, right around 1966. Kind of wild, right? It's a wild thing. Okay, so here we go. Let's do this. We're going to start sharing a screen here because we're going to go through a couple things, and we're going to go to this page first. Yes, indeed, we are. Desktop one, there we are. So you can see there's the Troggs posing in the caves in Cheddar Caves in Somerset, England in 1966. Pretty cool, right? Now, he's that guy that's on the front of this thing. Now, that's Reg right there. That's just pulled from Wikipedia. Now, let's go here. Let's pull his chart up. There's his chart. So with the chart being here, let's take a look at this because this is very fascinating. It struck me when I did this because it's a very Gemini chart. And you can see that because we've got our sun in Gemini right here. So you've got the sun in Gemini, which is this guy right here. Look at that. There's Gemini. This chart here is set for whole sign houses. That's the first thing you need to know. I like them. They speak to me a little bit better. They just, if you look at my chart and say like a Placidus or something like that, my chart doesn't make much sense. Then when you look at it from a whole sign perspective, my chart makes much more sense to me, and Carrie finds the same thing with her chart. So that's why we like to use whole sign houses. There's less ambiguity there, and everything's pretty equally distributed as far as the house placements and everything. That's that ring on the outside. Now, you can see the numbers there, house placements and the numbers, they all have meaning, and this is something that's going to be a recurring theme throughout these chart spotlights. Now, Reg was born, this is set for 11:44 in the time of day. The birth time's not known. Now, when you don't know the birth time, usually you go with a noon chart. I just happened to be very close to noon when I pulled this up, and at 11:44, it kind of resonated. I looked at it and I was like, oh, that moon on the descendant looks really good, and that Chiron and Pluto on the at the end of at the beginning of what we consider the first house, that was pretty interesting too. So I looked at it and I was like, that's a pretty serendipitous chart. So you would have to go through specific events in his life to really try to rectify it. That's what it's called when you try to get a more pinpoint a view of what a chart looks like. And it also helps if you have the person that's here to bounce the ideas off of and try to rectify a chart with. Now, Reg unfortunately died. So he died in 2009, I want to say. Not quite sure. I suppose I could pull up the Wikipedia just to be sure. But actually, let's do that because we just don't want to spread some false information here. So there you go. He unfortunately died 2013. Okay, I did him in earlier. It was a form of cancer that he had, and unfortunately, there you go. So let's get back to the chart here. And our chart, when we start reading charts, we're going to notice a couple things. We want to notice where the ascendant is, because that's this line right here. Our ascendant is at 28 degrees it's 28 degrees 9 minutes, so it's right down here. So it's way down here. We don't have Pluto. Pluto's on that cusp up there, but your ascendant is down here. Full sign houses brings it right into the line with here. So, on this particular software that I'm using, this is Planet Dance. It's a free one that's available from Android. I do it on a tablet. This is the one I like to use for the most part. I will probably end up having to graduate to something more expensive eventually, because I think that this has some limitations to it that you can pretty much see when you're comparing charts. You can't really do progressions very easily or anything. You know, it's some advanced techniques. You can't really do very many advanced techniques. We're going to keep this very basic, though, because this is actually just a way to start reading charts, right? We want to start reading charts. You're interested in astrology. Let's dive into this, okay? So we have our sun in the 11th house, the house of outside groups, and it's our social house. It's our clubs. It's our affiliations and everything. So the sun's located in Gemini in the 11th house. We have the moon over here located in Aquarius, just barely in Aquarius. Look at that, 0, 0, right on the cusp line between Capricorn and Aquarius. And that's kind of important because that's something that you're going to see later on in as we talk about this, that's kind of an important point. And we also have the ascendant down here at the 28-degree mark. So we have now, when you're looking at the chart, you're going to say, hey, what's impressive about this? Now you notice that blue triangle inside there. That is a grand trine, and the moon is making those grand trines over here. So it's on one side of the triangle. And you can see that it goes up to this nebulous point right here where we have Uranus, Saturn, and Jupiter all in a line, kind of just dancing there, right? They look good, right? Now, technically, we also have these three planets here in line with the median Celli, which is the noon point, the highest point in the chart, and that's a stellium. So we've got a stellium in the straddling the 10th and 11th house because we have Jupiter in that house of those partnerships and everything. You know, what else is what would be more partnership like? What would be more affiliating socially than being in a band, right? Well, you could say that the 7th house would do that, and we get the moon in the 7th house, but it's also trine with these planets over here. We've got Jupiter in that 11th house. So Jupiter is our, that's our Aquarius house, right? That house is Aquarius. So there's some Aquarian ideals that are brought into that description where you're working for a public good rather than a personal good. This is it's just a progression, right? Because we have Libra, we have the cardinal sign, we have the fixed sign of Aquarius, and we got the mutable sign of Gemini. Now, the mutable sign of Gemini means that immutable signs, they can take things as they go. They can transform, they can transmute, they can do all that stuff. All right. So let's take another look at this. So you get the Grand Trine, and then you get Neptune down here. And that's conjunct with the North Node. Now, the North Node is in the 2nd house. That's the 2nd house with Neptune. And you can pretty much tell that that's going to be, the 2nd house happens to be in Virgo. So it's an Earth sign. So what do we know about Reg Ball that would support some of these things here? Well, when he first started in the band, he was actually working, which is pretty standard because he's working a day job, right? Look we got Saturn right there, right in Taurus. So we right away we know that he's not going to be. It's a fixed sign. We know how stubborn Taurians are, and we know that he's not going to walk away from a sure thing for a wild thing, right? He happened to be working as a bricklayer, and he stayed a bricklayer until the song went to #1. Then, at that point, that being back in the day, didn't have to be a bricklayer anymore. Now, they didn't write the song. The song was written by an American named Chip Nichols. Chip Taylor, maybe one of the others. They did not write the song. They simply covered it, and it blew up like crazy. Went to #1 in a lot of different places. However, they chart songs back in the day like that. And you can tell by the 3 chords and the that very sparse, simple production. It's considered proto-punk. It was Iggy Pop is listed as an influence. Bob Dylan liked the song. There's a lot of people that actually like this version of the song, and that's that wide appeal, right? Look, that Jupiter, right? You're going to bring a lot of people together. That work, that what you got going on is just going to be disseminated, and you're going to be, oh yeah, that's good, right? And now we got Mars up here in Pisces, so our action is actually in the 8th house. So we're going to transform something, right? What does he transform? Well, he transforms the way he does his way he makes his income, so he doesn't have to worry about it because Neptune in the 2nd house is not counting pennies. Neptune in the 2nd house is just doing whatever it has to do. Now, the 2nd house being in Virgo, still going to be concerned with it a little bit. We're not going to we're not going to say, oh, that really doesn't matter, because it does matter. It matters to this person here, this individual, this Mr. Reg Ball or Reg Presley, because that is something that we've got going on that he actually is doing and enjoys doing. Now, as we get later on in the chart, you can see that Venus and Mercury, they're very important. Now, this is the 12th house. The 12th house is that house of transformation. It's where we go, with love, ideas. They can be transformative, right? Or they can transform over time. With Pluto in the 1st house, that's where you get that kind of piercing gaze that he has, that looking at you, and just that not unflinching, right? You do that wild thing, and all of a sudden it's like, that's different. And yeah, he's going to do that. He's going to do that different. Or Love Is All Around, that other song, right? If you know that song, you'll know that it's completely different from Wild Thing, but it's still a really, really good song, and it's something that speaks to that transformative nature of the intelligence here in Cancer. That's a very emotional take on our cognitive abilities and our thinking, because if Mercury is a planet of thought, then you know that being in a water sign in 12th house, that's Pisces and Cancer, right? That is something that's very, very profound. Just like the Mars and Pisces in the 8th house, right? That's transformation, that's legacies, that's other people's money. There's some action with it. He can actually use that to counterbalance Neptune down in the 2nd house, or the Earth house, and not be too concerned about that. Now, the house of partnerships is very interesting because that's a 7th house. And what we're looking at in the 7th house, we've got that in Aquarius. So now you think it might be a little wild, right? But no, Aquarius is a fixed sign. So where is the wild in the Wild Thing chart? Let's take a look here, because when we're looking for something that's going to stand out and be different, it's that grand trine. It's that Neptune anchoring one side and the moon anchoring the other side. This is some intuitive stuff. He's feeling it. He can feel something coming around, and that intuitive stuff is tied in with that public persona. So now he's going to take these 2 wild things. These are wild. The intuitive stuff from the moon being on the cusp of Aquarius, because remember, Aquarius, the moon is in Aquarius, and that is innovative. That is definitely out there. That's eccentric, okay? So how is he going to express eccentricity during his lifetime in a Neptunian way, which is that otherworldly, the out there way, even with it being in the Earth sign? Remember, the opposite of Virgo is Pisces, and Mars is actually opposing Neptune. So now that work is going to be working towards expressing those Neptunian ideals. And the other part of this trine is definitely Uranus. Now, Uranus, we know, is the ruler of Aquarius, co-ruler actually, because Aquarius is actually also ruled by Saturn. They're both conjunct here. All right, so what we do have is we do have this desire to public-facing desire to do something a little bit different, but not too different. Yeah, but it is different because we've got the Aquarian things going on here. We've got the moon over here. We got Neptune. So that's driving it for something different. So what happened? Well, later on in his life, Mr. Reg Presley got turned on to crop circles. Now, this is not surprising, okay? Because if you look at where Uranus is located in Taurus. Taurus is the Earth. Taurus is farms. Taurus is all that stuff, right? We've got Uranus and Saturn, co-rulers of Aquarius, the different idea kicking around in his head in Taurus. And from here, this goes to the other thing that Aquarius and Uranus are known for is UFOs. So Mr. Presley comes out with a book. Wild things they don't tell us. Okay? Now, says it's from February 1st, 2004. Okay, he kept this in. So he starts delving into all of these things in a very Gemini-like way. That's going to bring us back to the sun, right? Because that sun in Gemini is quite interesting because the sun in Gemini is interested in all sorts of things. Geminis are that way. They have many varied interests, and they're quite good at them. Okay, it's a Mercury-ruled sign. We got Mercury in Cancer. Mercury wants to know what's going on with Cancer. What's going on? What Cancer is that subtle, intuitive. It's not as deep diving as Scorpio or as concerned with spirituality or ultimate transformation as Pisces. It's equally intuitive. It's equally psychic. It's probably the most. It's intuitive. It's emotional. It's a feeling thing. Now, before we even get into that, this little cusp right here with Capricorn is very interesting because Reg Presley was married for over 50 years. Only one wife. How common is that in rock and roll? Well, you can see right here, these stable influences right here. We've got Venus over here in this emotional sign. It's not going to, this is something that is just going to lock onto, okay? In the 12th house, this can be transformational. This can also be on a spiritual level. This can be love expressed, a very deep emotional bond, which is this right here in Cancer, right? You've got Cancer right there in the water sign. This bond is so strong that it just doesn't go away. There's 2 children that come out of it, and the children are in Sagittarius. So, his house of children, this is the 5th house. It's also a house of creativity. Now, even though there's no planets in there, this is still pretty important because you can see that creativity that he had was very, in a way, exploring different avenues of things. Just like Love Is All Around is so different from Wild Thing, the cover of Wild Thing. Just like his Wild Things, the book, is totally different. There's different phases and different aspects of his public persona, which is this Gemini in the 11th house, and the public persona, your public-facing side, is actually in the 10th house, and it's the Uranus and Saturn. But this is your social side, right? That's the side of affiliations and organizations and other things like that, right? It's also where we express some of our more, where we get our innovative ideas from, and it's just it can also spur interest in other things. That's the Aquarian house. That's that house of like, oh, let's do something differently. Let's do this in a way where we can find other like-minded individuals that want to be interested in these things. It began with music, which is this this there's some creativity here, there's some creativity here, and it actually culminates up here, but it does it in a way that's monetarily rewarding. It's not like an empty creativity. It actually has very much, and it's tied right in with that medium celli right here. So that's the chart for Reg Presley. Now, would you progress it? Would you do other things? Well, yeah, you could. You could do that with other software, and you could chart different parts of his life. In 2014, we're talking, 2013 rather, when he finally had cancer and then just died. You could track various steps of his career through that. But that's what we have for you. That's a quick chart summary. It's not exhaustive by any stretch of the imagination. Just touched on some of the more salient points that I happen to see and just happen to speak to me. And I hope you find it fun. I hope you find it useful. Doesn't say anything because, it does say something. It's just the way that I tend to look at charts. Thank you so much for watching this, and thank you for your continued support. If you liked what I did here, subscribe and hit the bell. It's one of the first chart readings I've ever done, so please be kind if you do it in the comments. I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I've missed, and they'll only get better as I do more of them. Thank you so much. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your love and understanding. Subscribe, hit the bell. Thank you. Bye-bye.